This is my odyssey, visiting the birthplaces of the U.S. presidents. I'm Bob Henderson. My odyssey took me through 29 states to get to the 20 states where the presidents were born. I drove about 11,000 miles and took one airplane ride to Hawaii and back, totaling close to another 10,000 miles, and some amount of jet lag, I might add. Now, the mandate was for the presidential birthplaces, not where the presidents made their careers or spent most of their lives, but the birthplaces. And with one exception, I did not go to the presidential libraries unless they were in close proximity to the birthplaces. Most were not. Some of these birthplaces were really out of the way places. I mean, places you'd never go unless you were specifically looking for the birthplace. Those were some of my favorite places that I visited. So in this series, I'm going to share with you my pictures of the presidential birthplaces and the surrounding areas, as well as fun facts about the 46 presidents to date as we produce this in September 2023. So let's get started with the birthplace of the first U.S. president, General George Washington, known as the father of our country. Washington was the first of 8 presidents born in Virginia, the state with the most presidents born there. He was born on the Potomac River at Pope's Creek, Virginia. Now note that he was not born at Mount Vernon, where you may have visited, as many of us have. Pope's Creek is the birthplace. His birthplace home burned down when he was an adult, but there is a memorial home on the National Historic Site today. Washington became president because of his brilliant leadership in the Revolutionary War of 1775 to 83. One of his first acts of leadership was on Christmas Day, 1776, as he gathered his troops to cross the Delaware River from Pennsylvania into New Jersey to fight what would become the Battle of Trenton. Where he crossed is today Washington's Crossing, Pennsylvania. At the Maryland State House in Annapolis, which by the way was an early U.S. capital for a few months, General Washington resigned his commission in December of 1783. And a month later, the Treaty of Paris was signed there, ending the war with Great Britain. Washington became the first president from 1789 to 97, served 2 terms, and he stepped down after those 2 terms. He wanted to set a precedent for future presidents for just 2 terms, and he died 2 years later. Fun facts, George Washington did not have a middle name. He was the only president elected unanimously. He was elected by electors, not by popular vote. He was never wounded in battle. He did not sign the Declaration of Independence, and he loved to dance. No wonder he was popular with the ladies. Now, Washington spent most of his boyhood years in Fredericksburg, Virginia, at the Ferry Farm, and later Fredericksburg would be the site of 2 Civil War battles. One of them was won by the North and the other by the South, and Fredericksburg also the home of Mary Washington University, named after George Washington's mother. The second president was Washington's vice president, John Adams, a founding father. Adams, the first of 4 presidents born in Massachusetts, and he's the first of 2 father-son tandems to be elected president. Adams was a Federalist, a member of the Federalist Party, and the only member of that party to be elected president. He was born at what is now 133 Franklin Street in Braintree, Massachusetts, a part of Quincy, Massachusetts. Now that's spelled Q-U-I-N-C-Y, but it's got the Z sound at the end. The town of Quincy is named after his wife Abigail's father, Colonel John Quincy. Adams would lose a bitter contest for re-election against his arch-rival and his vice president, Thomas Jefferson, in 1800. Now, nobody got a majority of the electoral votes, so the House of Representatives had to decide the election, and this would be the first of 2 times in U.S. history. The third president was Thomas Jefferson. 2 terms, 1801 to 1809. Jefferson, a founding father, and he was the person who wrote the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson was the second of 8 presidents born in Virginia. He was born at the Shadwell Plantation just outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. And I knew the birthplace had burned down many, many years ago, and it's marked by a historical marker today. But as I drove up and down U.S. Route 250 West to find what is now 2449 Richmond Road, I couldn't find the marker. And compounding the problem is the fact that in Virginia, there, there are historical markers everywhere. So finally, somewhat exasperated, I spotted a marker on the other side of the road. I turned around, I pulled over. It was Jefferson's marker, but somewhat obscured by tree branches. And I find that rather disturbing. After all, here's one of the most famous men in American history and the founder of the nearby University of Virginia. Disturbing that his marker wouldn't be better taken care of. Jefferson was the first member of the Democratic Republican Party to be elected president. He won his first term against the sitting president, John Adams, in 1800. As I pointed out earlier, that election decided by the House of Representatives. Jefferson lived much of his life at the estate that his father built, Monticello, in the Shenandoah Valley. He's buried there, and he died on July 4th, 1826, ironically, the same day as John Adams. The fourth president, James Madison, 2 terms, 1809 to 1817. Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. He wrote the Bill of Rights. Those are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And Madison is a founding father. He is the third of 8 presidents born in the state of Virginia. He was born at the Belle Grove Plantation on the Rappahannock River at what is today 17062 James Madison Parkway. It's U.S. Route 301, and it's in Port Conway, Virginia, in a section of Virginia known as the Northern Neck. His mother was visiting family at Belle Grove, and she gave birth there. The home no longer stands, but it's been rebuilt, and today it's a bed and breakfast. And this property has another place in history. Outside Belle Grove, there's a sign that says, in 1865, agents stopped here. They had a tip that Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was here. He wasn't, but he was nearby. And fun fact, James Madison lived much of his life nearby in Orange County, Virginia, at his estate, Montpelier. The fifth president, James Monroe, 2 terms, 1817 to 1825, the last of the founding fathers elected president, and the third of 3 members of the Democratic Republican Party to become president. Monroe was the fourth of 8 presidents born in the state of Virginia. He was born in what is today Westmoreland County in Colonial Beach, Virginia. It's in the northern neck of Virginia. You find the birthplace at 4460 James Monroe Highway. And fun fact, Monroe's birthplace is less than 15 minutes from George Washington's and about 20 minutes from James Madison's. My visits to the birthplaces of the U.S. presidents continues with the birthplace of the 6th president in the next episode.